Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome back to another episode of XS Gaming Podcast. This is episode 145, and I am not alone this time. I am joined by my good buddy and co-host, Mr. James Gruesome. What's up, James?
Yeah, someone was awake this week. There it happened. I'm old. I'm here. Fall is in the air. It is officially fall. Cooler weather has hit. It's been really awesome. Wearing hoodies to work in the morning. Man, it's just, and honestly, to me, and I know for many people, I think that just brings like a better mood. Sometimes, like, especially with everything going on, it's like, oh, I'm just waiting for fall and, you know, Halloween, and who knows what's going on with trick-or-treating and stuff. Like we're not even, hey, you can still decorate, and you can still, you know, have all the fun that comes with it. Go buy some Halloween junk. It's just fun. Like I said, the weather, I mean, we did, it's all below the 80s now. I mean, it's good, man. I can't complain. You got to look for the bright spots in life. And, you know, we enjoy the weather, and the weather being a good thing now with a good temperature, that's definitely a bright spot. But I hope you all are doing well.
Indeed. And yeah, I love the fall. I mean, I'm very basic. I love pumpkin everything. And like, you know, last weekend I got up and it was like 60 degrees in the morning. I fired up a cigarette and I'm like, oh, it's the first pumpkin coffee of the year. But I do want to say a big thank you to everyone in the last episode. You know, there were some technical issues, and I ended up doing a solo podcast, and a lot of people were like, "Hey, you did pretty good." And I will say, it's something that if I have to do, I'll do, because I do want us to have like a cohesive schedule, because that was another thing. A lot of people were like, "Man, I'm just glad you guys are putting out more episodes," and that's always something that could happen in case there's technical issues, or James is sick, or he's out of town, or something like that.
Yeah, and I will take like I said, I'll take the heat on that. Was my bad, like, because I saw Xander's message. It was like I saw it and I woke up early and like I fucking fell back asleep. But I definitely am on board with doing, you know, getting back to the every other week like we were doing. My apologies, like I said, it does happen, but I'm definitely on board, and you know, it's great to try to get back on a regular schedule once again.
Man, it's great to have you back, because it took me 2 hours to record a 30-minute podcast because it's kind of weird, like talking to yourself, and you're kind of like self-consciously talking and being like, man, you messed that up. You need to just re-record. And I just kept doing that over and over again, and so it's always good to have James back. And you know, if you guys do enjoy the podcast, we are getting back to a normal schedule. Be sure to check us out on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, all your favorite podcast catchers. And if there's a catcher that you like, a platform that we are not on, you can DM me on Twitter at XS Gaming Podcast. But getting into the gaming news, since you were gone, James, so much has been going on. You know, last episode I was talking about the reveal of the price of the Xbox One. We talked about that. And then, you know, now PS5 has their price. Now the pre-orders are up. And it's just been a complete mess with the pre-orders. Like, absolutely insane.
You know, I kind of thought, because I'd mentioned when I had, you know, pre-ordered the Analog Pocket, and kind of like what a debacle that was. And that's a small company, you know, and their pre-orders sold out in literally 15 minutes. You know, people's orders were getting, you know, rejected.
I remember I was worried.
Checking. Yeah, because you checked with me, and I was like, oh shit. And like, I went to my emails, and mine magically went through. I had no issue with it. And like I said, my order, you know, still good. Still got to wait till, you know, March of next year. But hey, you know, that's how it is. And like that, but that's okay. That's a smaller company. But here we're dealing with, you know, two of the biggest names, you know, in gaming. Holiday season, people may still have, you know, some of that stimulus money tucked away. People are looking for an escape, a fun time, just something to escape all the mess that's still going on. And hey, what better way to do it than the new game system? But you know what? Even with these huge companies, it just turned into a whole big mess, to where it's like a lot of people didn't get them. You know, I tried myself, because, you know, they had that awesome, you know, payment plan, especially with Xbox. But, I mean, it's a great idea, but, you know, I mean, how good is it if you can't get it? I know, even beforehand, my brother EJ, he checked his GameStop just to see what the deal was. And the dudes at his GameStop, they didn't even know. They're like, we don't know actually until the day. All they mentioned was that they had 5 X's and 2 S's. Now, neither of us know if this was going to be for pre-orders or if this was just going to be their stock they were going to get on release day. Like I said, I don't think the GameStop guys knew either. I mean, which that just seems like like a kind of a small ridiculous amount to have.
I feel bad for the GameStop employees, man, because they're, the average customer is going to look at the GameStop associates as like they're going to know before everybody else because they work in a video game store, and they're kind of just like stuck in the middle of like, I don't know what's going on. Like, oh my god, that's going to be disastrous.
It kind of makes me think back of when they had announced the Saturn
Mm-hmm.
many years ago before anybody even they're like, what, like this, like these are going to be in stores. But I checked with my GameStop because I have one on my route, and I was like, hey man, I'm like, I know you probably don't have any, but I'm like, Xbox pre-orders. And he was like, nah man, he's like, they're all gone. He's like, but check the website. He's like, we should have them up there. He's like, just keep checking. He's like, you might have to pay full price, but they should be there. I went on that one, nothing. I did sign up on an email list, just to stay informed with it. But I mean,
Yeah.
these are both systems that people want. A lot of people but it's just, man, it's a big mess, and I kind of expect a little better from these huge companies. Where I think they kind of don't really have an excuse for this. They should definitely plan this out better. I mean, like, were they not? I could see Analog Pocket. They were not expecting that. Tremendous
Yeah,
amount
and it's
of
a smaller,
orders.
it's a smaller
Right.
company.
And I get that there's issues, with getting these systems made. But I mean, if this system's come out in November, I mean, come on. Like, surely if they're done, they should have had, I just think, a better plan. I mean, I'm going to lay the fault on both of them. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of thinking that either if it doesn't happen before the launch, they're going to try to either do, and like, so this is speculation, on me, that they're either going to try to do like a second wave, or at least, try to do something to make up for it. Maybe have more in stores. Either way, they'll be available at some point. So, just please don't go, paying overpriced pre-orders from
Yeah.
some scammers, the people that went out. And like, I hate that. I hope they limited the amount that people could get, but even so, somebody's going to try to make a buck. At the same time, I don't blame the person trying to make a buck, but these companies should have had a better plan intact before all this happened.
Yeah. My thing is that at the time of recording this, I believe they did have a second wave of PlayStation 5 pre-orders. And then I think that was also the disaster. I was trying to look it up before I started recording, but I got busy. But it's one of those things, like, I kind of expected some craziness going on, but I mean, I didn't expect it to this caliber. Like, it's to the point where it's almost as bad as like Nintendo stuff. When Nintendo goes up on pre-orders, it's like boom, it's gone, and then everyone's scalping it. I mean, that's kind of like what I expect from Nintendo, but I don't expect that from Sony or Microsoft. Like, especially since we knew way ahead of time that these consoles are in production, and they said, despite COVID-19, we are en route, we are doing this, don't worry, because a lot of people were like, is the next gen going to be delayed because of COVID-19? I mean, a lot of these consoles are made in China and overseas. Is this going to cause a ruckus? So I'm just surprised that so many people were like trying to pre-order and it was just not happening. But I want to ask you, James, have you made a decision on your step to next gen?
Yeah, I'm going with the Xbox. I've said before, they really won me over. I'm a big fan of the Game Pass, especially the Game Share, which is
Yeah.
still, I mean, boy, Kenneth, man, would take part in that like all the time, which is that's one of the most gamer friendly functions to a system I think you could possibly have. I was like, man, if Sony decided to do something like that, I mean, that would really bump them up even more. But yeah, that's the one I decided to get. I mean, I did love that payment plan option. I was kind of hoping to, jump in on to that because it's a no interest. I did the math on it. Everything adds up. If you add up, the ultimate Game Pass, for the amount that they give you added in, it really is like just it's a no interest plan, 35
Yeah.
a month.
It's
I
not
mean,
like a rent a center where you know rent to own a couch and you end up spending 2,000 on a $500 couch. It's not one of those kind of like rent to own scams.
yeah, no, like it's yours, and I mean, it's like you do have to, because I started to go through the process of one to check it out, because it seems like on some of the websites I went to, that sometimes that some of the S's were available, which like I did not want that version, but I just kind of went into, and actually even one of the X's let me initially go into an option, but it didn't go through, and you kind of have to apply for a little bit of a kind of like a credit background check, because
Mm-hmm.
you are applying for a card in a sense. But like I said, it is no interest if you add it up. It totals up to around like 800 something. But if you add in the 15 a month for the Ultimate Game Pass over 2 years, I mean, really, it all adds up to just like what you would pay out. Hey, Kitty, that just joined us right here.
It's the
But
podcast.
but
She has a lot to say about the Microsoft Xbox right
definitely
now.
just like, damn it, we wanted that system. But I did get excited about it because it's always fun to get a new one. But after the initial kind of let down of like, hey, this isn't happening. Oh, please stop playing with my wires. After the initial letdown, that I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I'll get one eventually. But I did kind of get caught up in the hype, and I was just like, oh man, I want to get this, but it
Mm-hmm.
did almost kind of seem a bit too good with that payment plan. I mean, and I do hope like maybe for some future ones that they still have that option available. And I really hope, that these stores didn't only have, 7 systems per store. Because, to me, like I said, it's a pre-order. Like, you shouldn't be selling out of pre-orders. Like, even with
Yeah,
everything going on, I get it. But it's a pre-order. That's to tell the company how many systems they need. Like, you
exactly.
shouldn't. I get it for systems. Like, that was the frustrating thing. You should not sell out of pre-orders. It doesn't make sense to me. Even though I
Yeah,
get it, it doesn't make sense.
yeah. For me, I decide I'm gonna wait. Um, I man, I'm like stuck in the middle because I like the PlayStation 5 for the exclusives, but the exclusives that are coming out for PlayStation 5, the ones I want to play, like Final Fantasy 16, they revealed that, and I'm like, oh my god, it looks so freaking good. It's not going to be out till 2021. Demon Souls I can live or without, because I like Souls, but I'm not like crazy in the Souls series. And then Spider-Man Miles Morales, which I thought was a PS5 exclusive. They just were like, hey, this is PS5, but hey, it's also coming out for PS4, so I can get it on PS4. But I will say this: when it comes to exclusives, PlayStation 5, I'm really excited about. But when it comes to like saving money, when it comes to backwards compatibility, when it comes to just having more games to play, I really am leaning towards Microsoft when it comes to that, because Game Pass alone has saved me so much money in the last year, because we got the kids an Xbox One for Christmas, and I love the fact that I can spend the price of a brand new video game, and they have games to play all year. And then, I can get Game Pass Ultimate and have it on PC, and I can play the games on my laptop. Like Battletoads. I was able to play that on my laptop using the Xbox One controller. Like, that's freaking amazing. And the fact that, Microsoft bought out Bethesda, they're buying out a bunch of companies. I think people are not noticing the Trojan horse that Microsoft's doing right now. Microsoft is not selling a new console, they're selling a new service, a new brand. And it's becoming the Netflix of games. And personally, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's kind of cool, to be honest.
Yeah, and like I said, when you mentioned the exclusives, with PlayStation, because that was the main thing. Like, oh, Xbox, you're not going to have any. But I mean, we don't know. Like I said, I mean, a lot of these games, I'm sure, will still be on both systems. Could be time released. We just don't know what they're doing. They definitely have a
Yeah.
big plan. I mean, these guys, they've been around for a while. They were new to the market, so many years ago, jumping in against, established Sony, Nintendo, you know, Xbox. It was definitely, it was a force. 360 was like, the super force that really kind of took over.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed, and even the X1, it's like it may have floundered a little bit, but it's still, in people's homes, and they're still there. And they got money. Like it seems like I heard, when they, bought, Bethesda, they paid for that like in cash.
Yeah. See,
I mean,
that's the thing.
yeah, they
That's the
got
thing.
money to do it.
A lot of people forget that Microsoft is more than just a gaming company. Same with Sony. Sony, they are not just a gaming company, but the difference is Sony's big flagship in their company is the PlayStation brand. How many times do you hear people, being like, "Oh, I bought a new Sony television," or "I bought a new Sony stereo"? We haven't heard that in a very long time. Like outside of gaming, Sony is going the way of RCA, it seems. But with Microsoft, they are constantly selling software. I mean, Windows is like huge. I mean, there's so much you can do with Microsoft, and it's almost like their gaming, section is just like their play money. That's what it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, they really have the money to burn. I mean, they can do what they want, and they end up being successful with it. Like I said, I think they've given us a lot of really cool things. And like I said, this still is exciting. I mean, no matter what side, I know last times, like, we're not really on a necessary side of a system.
Yeah.
Like we love it all, but it's interesting because I do love exclusives. I miss the days of, as I mentioned before, like different versions as far as like wrestling games in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Of having that different one on each console, something that really gives you a reason, to own both of them. So like it's really cool. It's really exciting. There's lots of weird stuff going on with Sega.
Oh
There's
yeah.
rumors is Microsoft buying them. Like, I mean, nobody really knows. It's all speculation right now at the moment. But I mean, man, like that would be something else if they snag them up too.
Now, I know I'm talking very highly of Microsoft right now, but I do want to mention something that's happened on Microsoft's side. It's been kind of hilarious with the pre-orders. Many people have bought the Xbox One X instead of the Xbox Series X on Amazon. Amazon, during this whole pre-order, had a 747% increase on Xbox Series X sales and Xbox Series S sales. And a lot of that's because, man, whoever was in charge of naming these consoles it's bad. A lot of people are like, and I'm just thinking about, parents and grandparents, like, how confusing is it going to be when they go to GameStop and they're like, yeah, I want to buy that new Xbox One X. And they're like, well, now we have the Series X. They're like, what?
I mean, that was a criticism of the Wii U.
Yeah.
That was too confusing of a name. The Wii U was too confusing of a name. And now, like I said, we will throw the blame on Microsoft for this.
Yeah.
Damn, at least with Sony, it's like, okay, PS3, PS4, and Microsoft, the 360, but then it's like X1, X1S, X1X. I have trouble keeping up with it myself.
I have to constantly like almost say in my head before I mention Xbox Series X, not calling it the Xbox One X. Like I have to keep telling myself not to say it.
And I call it that sometimes, the X1X, where there's already X, and it's like you legitimately have to think about it, and that is a fault. They really, you could have had like maybe A, B, C, or D. I think that would have been like a little easier. Maybe X1, 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 X2. Man, that's maybe too many letters. Something colors. I don't know.
I want the Xbox Triple X, please.
Yeah. It's like they really should have worked a little bit better. Because that is, and I remember hearing that story about the X, what the current Xbox going up in sales, and I'm like, is this real? But you could see it happening if people are jumping on there, not following the right links, not knowing the proper name. If it's a parent, most of us are buying our own system, so we know. But just think, if you're a teenager, you don't have a credit card or this, that, maybe your parents getting it for you, they're gonna get confused. There's gonna be lots of people let down, disappointed. There's gonna be lots of returns.
Oh God,
I'm
yeah.
sure, because that's one of the things buying online. Sometimes it's like, like I said, you don't see, you don't know the full thing, and Microsoft did not make it any easier with any of this, because it really is just like it's too much when you got to actually think about, okay, what system am I getting ready to mention here? You almost have to, in between, me and like some of my friends, like we'll just call the new one the X1X, or either maybe just list it as like X series. Because that's the main one we all want. So we kind of are going to ignore the S one. But even me now, I have a X1S is my current one, and it's just it's too much, man. It's too much.
Indeed, indeed. But and before we get into our main topic of the episode, I did want to mention they are working on a live action Yakuza movie. Another one. It looks like Sega is developing a live action adaptation of Yakuza franchise with 1212 Entertainment and Wild Sheep content. Eric Barmack and Roberto Grande, Joshua Long will produce 1212 and Wild Sheep while searching for writers for the script. They said Yakuza is the best-selling franchise after Sonic the Hedgehog. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
The game was first released on PS2 in 2005 and since grown into a global franchise with an additional 7 main title entries and 8 spin-off titles, all made on all major gaming platforms. They said that it's going to follow Kiryu Kazuma being released from a 10-year prison sentence after taking the fall of a murder of his family, and then after an entire Japanese underworld is pulled in a search for 100 million stolen from the vault of a former clan, Kiryu is forced back into the lawless world of Yakuza. So, I mean, I wonder if this is going to be... it seems to... Because, there already is a Yakuza movie by Takashi Miike, which I still need to watch that. I still need to watch it.
I do believe it's on YouTube. I can't say for sure. I think it was on YouTube, and I think it was. You can find it for free. It's subtitled, and it did, kind of follow the story, and you also had some extra things that weren't in the game, but very enjoyable. I mean, to me, I've seen some hate on it, a little bit recently. Actually, just today, when this was mentioned, some people were like, "Oh, great, they're trying that again." I honestly thought it was one of the better video game movies. Me and my wife, who at the times I've been playing it, she's watched me play. She's enjoyed that game. She actually sat down and watched that movie with me too, and she liked it. So I mean, I thought for what it was, it was really good, and I think a lot of people just didn't see it. Apparently some hated it, but I mean, this new one definitely sounds like maybe they're just kind of going, starting from the initial story and going with that. Definitely, excited about any of that, because I think they would make a cool movie, and I've recommended before too. I'll still say the Outrage series of movies, if you're fans of the Yakuza game, is a really good series of 3 films, that are really cool. But hey, I mean, I'm always up for more Yakuza stuff as the games keep coming, and only makes sense that they would try for a movie again.
Indeed. I'm curious about it, especially if it's like a bigger budget Sega movie. And I mean, there's so much that could be going on with that. They get a good cast. They get a big budget. This is, to me, I want it to be successful, because it's the more success that the Yakuza series has, the more stuff we get to celebrate with it.
Yeah. The old one, I think, was maybe 2010. And speaking of movie things and such too, so Netflix is going to be doing Resident Evil Infinite Darkness.
I saw they had a teaser. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
Yeah, Claire and Leon return. It will be that kind of CGI style, they've done a few of, which I thought are pretty enjoyable. I kind of like those better than the live action movies. But on the live action tip too, Netflix is also doing a Resident Evil series. There's going to be I think the same people did the movies are doing it, but it's kind of going to be based around like Wesker's kids.
Yeah.
It's going to be set in 2 different timelines, which just sounds kind of, interesting. It's something I'm sure I'll check out. But I mean, that's 2 other ones. You got Yakuza, and of course, more Resident Evil, which, is always coming out with new stuff.
Indeed. And, again, guys, if there's any news topics or anything you guys want us to hear cover in the next episode, leave a comment if you're listening to us on YouTube, and you can check out our archived episodes as well. But going into the main topic of this podcast, I mentioned to James earlier this week, I'm like, we just heard news that the 3DS, the Nintendo 3DS, is now out of production. It's dead. I hate to say it. I hate to say it that way, because this was a great handheld, and in many ways held Nintendo's head above water during the Wii U. I mean, I think we can all agree that the 3DS was very, very successful. And, the console is also a little nostalgic for me as well, because I remember when you and I started doing these podcasts, you and I had just gotten the 3DS. I believe I was like on the fence about getting the 3DS XL, and my 3DS was stolen. So then I was like, all right, I'm going to get an XL. And I think you and I, we were excited about the Castlevania Mirrors of Fate.
Yes, many were.
Yeah.
I'd kind of forgotten about that game. I was kind of digging, making some notes, and I was digging through a lot of my games, and I was like, wow, Castlevania Mirrors of Fate, man.
Oh man, I think many people. I mean, they think of Konami and they think of Hideo Kojima and Metal Gear Solid. They think about all that stuff with Konami and they get upset. But I think about the delays and the anticipation of Lords of Shadows 2 and Mirrors of Fate and how not so great they were, and I'm still sad about that.
Yeah, that was one. Like, I know somebody that bought a 3DS like just for that, and they ended up a little disappointed. Now I know we had bought ours just to get them. That was a nice bonus. But it's one of those ones I wonder, like, I haven't played it in a long time. I know they've like re-released it. I think you can get it on X1 and PS4 on the stores for download, or they might have put it in like some big special set, to where it wasn't 3DS exclusive. And it's one, I remember it being okay.
Yeah,
it
was all right.
It was not a symphony of the night. It was definitely a little bit more basic, but it's one I was like, you know what, man? I was like, I might pop this in later and try this out again and see if it was really, and I'm not one to say it was bad, but to see if like, maybe like, was this really a letdown? Or, I mean, it probably still was a letdown, but to see if maybe it's, maybe got a little better. Maybe I'd appreciate it a little bit more playing it now.
Now, what's really interesting about the 3DS is, we look at it now as like a huge success for Nintendo. But I think many people may have forgotten the fact that the 3DS, when it first came out, it was way too expensive.
$250.
It was swan diving in sales, and it was on the brink of becoming a complete failure. But then Nintendo was like, all right, we're going to do a price cut. So it went from $250 to $165. And
6 months later.
Yeah, 6 months. It dropped like crazy. But Nintendo did something really cool. They did the Ambassador program. Now, James, were you part of the Ambassador program?
No, because my first one was the 3DS XL. My brother EJ had got the initial one. He got it because he was always a big Nintendo nut. So he got it, and like I got to play it from the start. But he had it, and so he ended up being part of the Ambassador program, which was really cool because it was something that was not, it was never really duplicated. You ended up getting 10 Nintendo games and 10 GBA games.
Yep.
So they ended up giving you like 20 games, many of which I don't think, were ever put back on the stores or anything for purchase.
Some of these games have still never been available, and I got a list right here. So here's the 10 NES games. You got Super Mario Brothers, Metroid, The Legend of Zelda, Legend of Zelda 2: Adventures of Link, Balloon Fight, Ice Climber, NES Open Tournament Golf, Donkey Kong Jr., Yoshi, and Wrecking Crew. Now, the Game Boy Advance games you got was Metroid Fusion, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, Mario Kart Super Circuit, Yoshi's Island, Super Mario Advance 3, WarioWare Incorporated Mega Micro Game, The Legend of Zelda Diminished Cap, Fire Emblem The Sacred Stones, Wario Land 4, F-Zero Maximum Velocity. Well, I forgot that was even a game. And Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. Like that, you think about it and you're just like, man, that's really cool that they did that, but they kind of had to. Because I think they knew they screwed up. They're like, man, this thing was too expensive. We're not selling enough. Okay, the people that did support us and did buy it, we need to do something to make them happy. Because 6 months later, it's like, holy shit, man, that's from $250 to $160. That's a huge price difference. That's that's the equivalent of buying the 3DS and like 2 more games. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, I think they really did make up for it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's good. Plus the exclusivity, that went with that. Like we said, a lot of these games, and some of the ones, were available on the old, GBA cards when they did the classic series for a lot of NES games. But to have those on there and just to keep it and like not have these available again, I mean, that really was, I think, a really cool thing. Like I felt better, if I had had that, initial system, which, like I said, that was a big, investment. And that was a jump up from, we'll give a shout out, the DS, that came out in 2004. And so, the 3DS was still, it was a bit later, in 2011. And the people that jumped on that, it's really nice. I mean, it kind of shows that Nintendo does really care, because I
Hmm.
guess, they could have just been like, well, screw you guys, which probably wouldn't have gone over with the fan base. But I think, giving, I mean, 20 games, that's a, Jesus, cat, come on. That was I think just a really nice, extra to give. Just really cool. And the people that still have those games, man, that's awesome. They'll still have something that a lot of us like don't have.
That's something I remember the most about the 3DS. We can talk about games that we really enjoy on the 3DS, but one of the things that really sticks in my mind with the 3DS was the access to retro games on the go. And this is before I dived into emulation, and this is 2011. I didn't have like a smartphone. I mean, I think I was getting into smartphones, but I didn't know anything about hacking and stuff like that and emulation. So it was kind of a treat to go on the eShop and be like, okay, I'm gonna get Super Mario Land on my 3DS and play it on the go again without having a Game Boy. Like stuff like that was really really cool, and that was something I really enjoy was the 3DS eShop, because then you had a lot of indie games as well, like Shovel Knight and Mighty Switch Force from Way Forward and the Shantae series, stuff like that on the eShop that really stood the test of time, that games that we look forward to now in 2020.
Yeah, they really did. They give you access to like old classic Game Boy games. End up having Game Gear games.
Yeah, Game
Um,
Gear. I forgot about that too.
Even though on which like I think I might own one of them, but there was that whole Sega 3D Classics,
Mm-hmm.
which there's I'm not sure the amount. It's no more than 20. It might be somewhere like 12 to 20. A lot of like Genesis games, that were put on, with some extra little 3D function, which really gave you access to that. Which is kind of funny, as much as the 3DS, was listed as 3DS. I don't know how many of us actually used that 3D function on there.
I,
You know,
I, I didn't use it a whole lot.
no, no, I think that was it was a cool idea, but it was one of those things that was a little gimmicky. But even with that, it wasn't the main focus of the system.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
like you could use the capability, but you didn't have to.
yeah, I think that's the thing is, I don't have a 3DS anymore. There's many times I've debated getting like rebuying a 3DS, because I mean, at one point the 3DS was completely hack proof, but now you can hack a 3DS, and I'm like, yeah, I could buy myself a cheap 3DS and homebrew it and put a lot of stuff on it. And this goes in, when you mentioned the 3D, it made me think of something, because one of the things I was thinking about doing is, instead of getting a 3DS or a new 3DS, it's the newer 3DS that has better 3D and a little. We're going back in the Microsoft grounds here with the new 3DS, but the 2DS, it's a lot cheaper. It doesn't have access to the 3D, which I never use. The only thing that worries me about the 2DS compared to the 3DS is the 2DS doesn't have the clamshell, so you got those exposed screens all the time, like the old school Game Boys and handhelds. That's the only thing that kind of worries me. But I've thought about that, because I see 2DSs on eBay for like 50, $60. And I'm like, man, I could get, a 2DS. I can get a 128 gigabyte micro SD card loaded up with, not just, 3DS ROMs, but, SNES, NES, and Genesis, and all that stuff. And really have a really nice little handheld device.
Yeah, just having that option. It's like, that 2DS, that was one that came out. Just kind of look at the timeline, real quick. We had 2011 with the
Hmm.
3DS. 2012, we had the XL. And like I said, that was when, I got mine. 2013, we had 2DS, which was, pitched to some a little bit better for, kids. Because even though it did have the exposed screens, it seemed to maybe be a little bit more sturdy,
Yeah.
without having that open up, function that sometimes you might get that you're a kid, maybe bringing back too far, maybe popping,
Yeah.
breaking it.
I will say this. I remember when that was a thing, and everyone's like, "How the hell do people like snap their 3DSs in half?" Let me tell you, when I used to work at Babbage's, and this is back when the DS and DS Lite was out, it happened a lot with kids. Like there were so many times that kids, like parents, would come back with a snapped in half DS, and they're like, "My kid broke this in half." And if you notice, especially the 3DS XL, it's always been kind of like an OCD problem with me that when you open it up, the top kind of has a wiggle to it,
Mm-hmm.
and that wiggle is there to help it not snap in half. To kind of give that little bit of so it doesn't have too much resistance and the plastic wouldn't snap. It's always been a pet peeve of mine though. Like when I play it and I would open it, I would sit there and play, and I'd see the top kind of wiggle. I'd be like, oh, I hate that. That's another reason why I've thought about just getting a 2DS.
Yeah, I'm like, do I need to push it back in like a little bit, And like you said, with the new 3DS, which, I don't really know how well,
I
that
don't
one did.
I don't think
I
it did
think
too well.
I think it was kind of unnecessary. It was a little confusing, and honestly, there was only that I know of. I think it was only like really like 2 games, maybe 3, that could only play on that. Now I know there was some that like the Hyrule Warriors apparently just ran like garbage on
Hmm.
the regular one. But it's like you could still play it on there to where you had, a couple of games. And honestly, it probably was, a good one. I mean, mine did well, for the purpose. I didn't see the need to upgrade. But it was one of those, I think, at the time that if you were looking to get one, it was like, well, why not jump up to that one? But I
Yeah,
think maybe that was like a step too far that they didn't really need to do.
yeah. I think it was when it was first released. I think one of the biggest catches was, of course, it had some exclusive new 3D games, and the only one that I could really think of that sticks out in my head that people wanted to get was Xenoblade Chronicles. That was on the 3DS, and even to this day, like when I go back and listen to podcasts, people are like, it wasn't that good of a port. It wasn't as good compared to like the one on the Wii, and of course the HD remaster on the Switch, obviously. But another thing too, and I don't know if they ever fixed it, but I believe the new 3DS games had the Super Nintendo games that you could download that were exclusive to the new
Oh,
3DS. I think that was, correct me if I'm wrong, guys that are listening, because by the time the new 3DS came out, I wasn't playing the 3DS as much. But I think that was one of the things that was just like, if you had the new 3DS, you can download Super Nintendo games.
I
But they
think you're
might have
right.
fixed that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I think you're right on that. And, that was, like I said, going back to having, Nintendo always did, rely on having those. Hey, get these old games. I didn't always like their practice of how you had to buy them over and over and
Yeah,
over again.
same.
And I really could see, there's no reason Super NES games couldn't run on the regular 3DS. But hey, you got to have some buying points sometimes. And everybody always puts out different versions of systems, and sometimes companies, just stretch it out like a bit too far,
Hmm.
and who knows? One day, if I see a good deal on a new 3DS, because I still like to play mine. I was gonna pop it open before the show to check some of the like the download games I had, but I found it in the couch the other day. But when we cleaned out the couch, and then I don't know where I put it. I must have moved it somewhere else. Like I wasn't able to do that. But I do love my handhelds, and it's something that one day, like I said, the right price I might get. But I still have my original 3DS I got in 2012, the blue one. My wife got it for me, and that's the one I still use. It's great. 3DS games has that awesome backwards compatibility.
Hmm.
I mean, and that's one thing, Nintendo, definitely, embraced with the handhelds, always. And I mean, the DS had a library of at least 2001 games, while the 3DS had a library of somewhere the same. There were like, I have it in my notes somewhere, but I can't see it.
Oh, they had a lot of
2001 games
games.
on the DS. Yeah, but I think it was about 2200 games. I mean, you have the capability to play like 4,000 games at least. I mean, you might minus some off from, the DSi games, possibly in download ones that aren't available. But, you're still looking at a huge amount, that are really cheap. I highly recommend checking your GameStop, and a lot aren't in the cases because they were notorious for throwing those away,
Mm-hmm.
and you might just get it in a little CD slip case. But man, I will go through and buy DS 3DS games that are $1, $2. I don't even know what they are. I bought some stupid Red Bull like bull riding game. I don't know what the hell it was, but it was $1, so I bought it.
Yeah, and I think the thing is too is when you were talking about the how many games the 3DS has, we gotta remember too, man. There was like 2014, 2015. I remember those Nintendo Directs, and it would be like, all right, we're gonna hear some more stuff about the Wii U, and they'd like talk about 2 or 3 Wii U games, and then the rest of it would all be 3DS. It's like, all right, for the Wii U, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. 5 minutes later, just like 5 freaking titles and 10 titles for the 3DS. So it turned into like this 3DS Directs, and that's how Nintendo was for the longest time. But I wanted to get into some of our favorite games. Um, just like a handful of games that we really liked on the 3DS. For me, a game that I really loved on the 3DS that unfortunately is still a 3DS exclusive. I would love to see it on the Switch. I would buy it day one. Maybe we'll see it with the 35th anniversary of Legend of Zelda series, but Link Between Worlds. That was an excellent Zelda game. It was a love letter to Link to the Past, and it had its own little flavor to it, but at the same time it had that nostalgia. I remember playing that and being absolutely in love with it. That was such a good game.
Yeah, that one was just like really cool, and it was something a lot of people wanted for a long time. To have like a pseudo sequel to that game. And hopefully, it's not one it's kind of lost in time. And another big title I thought, Super Mario 3D Land.
Yes.
I mean, we kind of saw the next formation with the 3D world that came out on the Wii U, which is going to be coming out pretty soon on the Switch. I'd like to see the 3D Land come out. Hopefully some of these games don't really get lost in time, and they find a way to put them on there. Because I don't really remember them. You got to think of having the DS, of course, a dual screen. Some games they might have to do some finagling with to get them to work. Where you will lose that second screen function. But to be able to have them on there, and I mean you got to have a Mario game for the handheld. I mean, I thought that one was a very awesome one. And of course, like I said, they expanded on it with the next one. But I'd like to see like a little combo pack. What they put out 3D World, and maybe have 3D Land as a bonus on there with it.
I mean, it is possible because I mean they are going to be releasing more Mario stuff till March 2021, so it could be a thing. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Super Mario 3D All Stars gets DLC of more Mario games. That could always be a thing. Also, another game that I really liked was Kirby Planet Robobot. I remember I was working out of town at the time, and I played that game like every time I got home from work. Went back in the hotel room and played that game. It was so much fun. And also a series that kind of lost its way at the time, but you felt like you were back in the old school days on the 3DS, and now you can play this series on many newer consoles, not just handheld, but Resident Evil Revelations.
Yeah.
Remember, that was just a 3DS exclusive at one point.
It definitely was, and it's on everything now. And it's funny, I think people forget, that's where it started.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very, great playing game. Even on the size of the handheld, like it fit. To me, that's still one of my favorite ones. It took it a bit more back to the
old school.
Yeah, I was never the biggest fan of like Resident Evil 4 and some of the ones after, but the Revelations were games I could really get into. They've spawned sequels of their own. To where I know, like one of the last times I was reading, about the Resident Evil teams, a lot of them, they were still, as we've seen more and more, of the remakes, of course, of 1, 2, and 3, you kind of had teams working on those. You had a Revelation team series, which makes me think there still could be a third one. And then, of course, you had the teams working on, like 7. And, of course, now we have the Village, coming out. So they had, 3 teams working on all these different versions of the games that were still great. They still all had had that great just Resident Evil touch. But yeah, the Revelations just one. I don't know, man. I loved it. I love the setting on the boat,
Mm-hmm.
on that first and man, an old creepy abandoned ship. I still go back because I've never completely beaten that game, but it's one I continuously restart.
Yeah,
That's how much I do like it. Like that, I will restart it, and I've started it on a bunch of damn different systems because it's on every single one now.
yeah. I'm wondering if Revelations was inspired by Resident Evil Gaiden. I can't remember if Gaiden was actually released or not, if it was just canceled. I know you can play it now, but I believe that was a Resident Evil that had Leon and Barry on a ship, if I'm not
The,
mistaken.
there was a Resident Evil on Game Boy Color, which might have been the Gaiden, but there
Mm-hmm.
was another one that got canned that you can find, like the ROMs of. I don't know if it was completed, but I think that's the one. And like I said, I could be wrong, but I know one because I own was definitely released for sure, which I do think was Gaiden, and I do think there was another one was being worked on.
Oh, that was the
Uh,
original Resident Evil. Because I used to have a ROM cartridge of that I ordered from AliExpress. It's the original Resident Evil on the Game Boy Color.
Okay, so maybe
Yeah,
Gaiden is the one that's on the ship then too. That would be the
yeah.
one I think that I have, which I
But it
haven't.
didn't do too well, and they completely like took it from the timeline and stuff like that. I was looking at some of the other games as well. Of course, you had Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. I don't.
Nice return for Luigi's Mansion.
Yeah, I
Another
don't.
game that was kind of lost in time for a
I was
bit.
about to say I remember buying it. I remember playing a little bit of it, but I cannot remember a freaking thing about it. It was so long ago. And of course, I mean, you have for JRPG fans, you had Bravery Default, which was a huge game because it was almost like a pseudo back to old school Final Fantasy. It was Square Enix's back to the old school days of JRPGs, and I remember Bravery Default. I remember I got the collector's edition, and I just loved it. It was so good. I still need to play Bravery Default second, and there's going to be another Bravery Default coming out for the Switch that I definitely want to check out. Also, the online on the 3DS was huge. Not just game wise, but I remember Street Pass.
Street Pass.
You remember Street Pass?
Yeah.
I remember our friend Mikey. Mikey, he was obsessed with Street Pass. Like whenever me and him would go hang out, he'd always have his 3DS with him, and he'd be like, "Hey man, let's go over here and see if I get some Street Pass points." Like he loved it, and but the online gaming was huge too, especially with Mario Kart 7, Animal Crossing New Leaf, and the Pokemon series. I remember how excited I was to play Pokemon X and Y and having that online trading and online battle system, which, we saw with Pokemon Pearl and Diamond, but it just wasn't as good. It was really weird how they did the online on Pearl and Diamond, but it was much more streamlined and much more simpler to pick up and play on X and Y. And, I haven't played Pokemon in a very, very long time, but I remember I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I thought because also too, you remember the 3DS had the camera function,
Mm-hmm.
which a couple of games used, and I thought a couple like horror tinged games, a Spirit Camera,
Oh,
and
yeah.
and the Hidden. They were a couple that you could kind of use the camera function on there. Just little gimmicky thing. Those weren't really games that necessarily held up over time, but they were really, I thought, nice kind of like time wasters.
I remember being completely blown away by the AR cards, too. Like
Yeah,
that was insane. Like you'd have this little card you put on your table and you'd point your 3DS and boom, there was Samus in your living room. I thought that was
forget
really cool.
that one. Shinobi. That was one I'd kind of forgot about too, digging through my games. We had Shinobi on GBA, which a
Hmm.
lot of people did not like, but the 3DS Shinobi, which it was a pretty tough one. Another huge game for me, I remember at the time, was Code of Princess. Was supposed to be kind of like a return to like Guardian Heroes from the Saturn. That was kind of a beat 'em up with RPG elements. I have the box, man. It has like a some like a art book. I think it has like a CD with it.
Hmm.
It was a game though I was really excited about, but after really playing it, like it just, I don't know. It was fun for a little bit, but it just didn't quite have what I was looking for. Another kind of fun one too. There's just another so many of these I forgot about. Like I really want to go back and play some of these. We had a couple kind of like more 2D versions of a lot of games that were going on. For instance, like with the Batman, we had the Batman Arkham. I don't know if it was Arkham Origin, Escape from Arkham. It was definitely more of a 2D.
It was the
Almost.
Arkham Blackgate, I believe that's what it was.
That's it.
Yep.
That's it. Yeah, it's like we had that one, which I enjoyed. There was an Epic Mickey. Epic Mickey was a series. He had a couple games, especially on I think the Wii and Wii U. I don't know if it was on other systems, but there was the Epic Mickey Power of Illusion. So you're kind of going off the Epic Mickey series, but you kind of had that tie-in to the old Genesis games.
Yeah.
Which was real neat. It was a total 2D game. And I remember enjoying that one. I remember it also getting, kind of tough after a while. And also probably, I don't know, everybody probably had Steel Diver, I think, because it was like $5. I don't remember playing it that much, but I think everybody had that game.
Yeah. Now, getting to like the tail end of the 3DS talk, we did ask some folks on Facebook and Twitter some of their 3DS memories and some of the things that they wanted to celebrate. And I wanted to read some of those, and we can talk about that, and then we can get into games we've been playing recently. But I asked folks on Twitter and Facebook, I'm like, what's something that you want to mention about the 3DS? Let's see. MMGS Lewis says, got too many favorite games. The biggest ones are Project X Zone and its sequel, New Mario 2, which I totally forgot about that. The New Super Mario Brothers 2 with the golden coins. Remember that one?
Oh, wow.
You remember that? I forgot about that one.
Damn. Like, I probably have that somewhere. I have to try to find that one.
I just remember that game was like
that X Zone. I think the X Zone was that game that was kind of like a card battle game with SNK and like Capcom and
it had. I remember didn't it have Kiru Kazuma in it too?
It might have had like Rio or something. I don't know if Cosmo was in, but I remember it being like a type of strategy. Like I said, it made me think of the old like Neo Geo Pocket Color card battle games. But I remember having that, and that was very tough. It just wasn't my style of game, but I did play it for a bit, and just all the characters in it were very. It was very cool. I forgot about that one.
He also mentioned 3D Tetris and Smash Brothers on the 3DS. I remember Smash Brothers on 3DS being huge.
Yeah.
And many people breaking their little thumb circle things. All right, and Real T Wolf says, oh man, all the Phoenix Wright games, Zelda, A Link Between Worlds, both Bravery Default games, Castlevania Mirrors of Fate, SteamWorld Dig, and Heist, and so many more. Jesus, can you make me talk about this even more now? Let's see.
SteamWorld was a really fun game, and its sequels are really that's a fun series that you can still play on like most systems now.
Indeed. And this is on Facebook. Tyler, he says, my younger nephew loves to play Face Raiders a lot. He's really good. Our friend Chris.
There was one of those built-in games on there too.
Yeah, it was.
Like I said, with the camera function. Yeah,
that's right. I forgot all about that. That was really fun. Chris, aka DC Radaya, a good friend, he says, such an amazing library. I remember reliving Ocarina of Time and Star Fox 64, online battles and Pokemon, and staying up way too late playing Fire Emblem Awakening. Star Fox 64 on the 3DS is so freaking good.
It's like, I mean, we totally forgot about, when they put out the Zelda on there too,
Which is a good port. Like, it looks so good. Rick says, Animal Crossing New Leaf, a plethora of great Zelda games. I discovered Yacht Club's brilliant Shovel Knight series and WayForward Shantae games, an absolutely incredible and underrated Pocket Card Jockey, all on the 3DS. Never played Pocket Card Jockey.
No, that's one. I mean, sounds like a good fitting 3DS game. We forget too, like Shovel Knight. That was like where that started at, was on 3DS, and just look how huge that game has gotten, and how many extra DLC and everything they've had. And it's another game. It's available on like everything, and it's very beloved. And that was where it started.
Yep. And Justin down Phoenix, he says didn't really play it much. I was more of a Vita guy, but I do appreciate Nintendo take its blunder from it and savaged it. It made a great success with a lot of great releases. They really believed in their system, unlike Sony, and I can respect that. Probably need to run Citra running to see what I missed out on. Citra, of course, is the 3DS emulator that you can play on your PC or phones now. Matt says 3DS was an awesome system, dude. Not to mention it also was the very machine that had a lot of JRPGs in that era where most part of JRPGs are suffering a drought. That's true. I mean, you got to think, Japanese development back in 2011 through 2013 was just kind of weird. They didn't really know exactly what they were doing anymore, and a lot of great JRPGs were on the 3DS. So, John, he says Final Fantasy Threat Rhythm. Oh man,
Yes.
that was such a good game. That was such a good game. A
That was. I
game.
actually still had my stylus used to be sitting next here to where I record. But actually, I think my cat that joined us earlier, she took it downstairs, so it's down there somewhere. But I still have the sticker set. You can put the little stickers on the top.
Uh
It was like
huh.
an extra large stylus that came with. It was like a bonus, I think, like a pre-order bonus.
I
But
remember
man,
that.
that was a great like. Even if you don't, enjoy RPGs, but maybe you know a little bit about the Final Fantasy, or you just like rhythm games, like man, the music on everything. It was a great game.
I remember you and I both got that game because I got that game on release date too, and I remember you and I both were agreeing that it was one of those games that we didn't expect to enjoy as much as we did.
No, I kind of want to play it now, man. I might
It
have
was
to.
good. It was really, really good. I mean, I was just kind of like, because I'm a big Final Fantasy fan, and I was like, man, I love the music, so I was like, oh, I'll check this out. And I remember playing it so much more than I expected, and I really
Yeah.
did enjoy that game. But I think that's a good little close on the 3DS, guys. If you have anything you want to add about your 3DS memories, things that you loved about the console, leave a comment. You can leave a comment on YouTube.com/XanderScullion, or maybe on Twitter. I would love to read maybe like a like a fallback on the next episode. Be like, oh yeah, we got some new comments about the 3DS from the last episode.
So many things you'll forget, and I wonder too. As a closing thought, what does this hold for the future? Nintendo was the king of
Yes.
handhelds. They always have been, and now they have a system that is a mixture. They
Mm-hmm.
embrace the both worlds, where they always, of course, succeeded, as you said. During the kind of failing, Wii U times, this 3DS kept them up, and now they've kind of combined it together. And like, I wonder, like, will we ever see, a full-on handheld again? Which, I mean, of course, we have the Switch Lite, but to me, that's not the same thing. Because it plays the games that your regular Switch you can play on the TV. It
Yeah.
is a handheld, or I could see maybe that turning into a handheld, and them keeping that going, but maybe when they have their new system come out, whenever that may be, and
Mm-hmm.
having that as a dedicated. But it'd be kind of sad just to see Nintendo's handheld just disappear. Like I said, even though it hasn't, because we still have it with the Switch, and I do like that combined ability, because not a lot of people could have pulled that off. But I kind of wonder what the future holds for it, because I think other companies, we heard about Microsoft for a long time. I don't think they're ever coming out with a handheld. I
No.
think Sony's given up on that. Nintendo is clearly the only one that can pull it off, and they manage to maintain, even with the competition of well, I don't need that, I have a cell phone or this and that. But obviously people still love Nintendo handhelds, and like I said, that combining it into one, I think, was genius. And maybe that's just the way of the future. Maybe they'll try to keep up this kind of dual thing. I really don't know, but I mean, it'll be fun to see. But man, we love the 3DS and hate to see it go, but man, it had a great lifespan.
It really did. It really did. And James, we're in that segment of now of games you've been playing, and what have you been playing?
I played some games. Um, I did get the new Mario 3D All Stars,
Same.
which I didn't play a whole lot. I did try out Sunshine, because that was one I never really played. Honestly, you know what? It kind of made me think a lot of Splatoon
Mm.
as I played it. And you kind of wonder if they got some ideas from that. I just run around a little bit on that one, but the two main games I've been playing were WWE Battlegrounds. Usually every fall we get a new WWE game, and last year we had the horrible, 2K20, which was a humongous failure. On many accounts, it's glitchy, awful, just not fun. But this time they went with a more arcadey, fun feeling game with Battlegrounds. It makes me think of the old WWE All Stars. Like if you're looking for, it's kind of a wrestling game. You do wrestling moves. It has that arcadey feel. It's definitely a bit more pick up and play. Like the ring is destructible. Like I broke the ring one time. I was like, this is cool. Literally minutes of playing, I realized I'm like, man, this is way better than the 2K series. Like I said, it's goofy. Just the character models, just they look kind of just kind of funny. There's like alligators you can throw people into. You get little bonus points for that. Like I said, when you destroy the ring, you can hit them with the broken parts of the ring. It's only a $40 game. Has lots of unlockables, which I love in wrestling games. You have to get the coins. I think you can buy the characters too, but I mean, it has a roster up to like 70 something people. So you can go through, you can unlock lots of stuff, lots of legends, like Yokozuna, was on there from the start. So, you got lots of legends you can buy with the, an unlock, and you, of course, got your current roster. Which is really fun. I kind of like this style they went with because, like I said, I don't think the other way was working. So I enjoyed seeing this change up. I do like that lower price tag, which I think, that's always great. Because, if it was 60, I don't know if it's a $60 game. But I think for 40, definitely fun. And another game I realized the other night that had come out, I'd gone to bed, and I was like, oh, man, Mafia is out. Mafia, the remake. I was a huge fan of Mafia 2. And Mafia 3 didn't really, I don't know. I don't really care about that one that much. But the old one I really loved. But it came out around the time of GTA 3, which really got overshadowed because you could do so much in GTA 3. And Mafia was a little bit linear. And they decided to redo the whole game, which I was really surprised. Which I'm kind of glad they did, because it's, the old one's not really one you'd probably want to play, because like I said, it's just, I don't want to play GTA 3 now.
Yeah.
I can handle Vice City sometimes, but still it's like, it's just.
I tried playing Vice City not too long ago, and I was like, oh, this game hasn't aged well, because I got like the sell on PSN a while back, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's like, I'd love to see, I think everybody would still love to see Vice City redone or a sequel, but Mafia definitely had its its time. It's set back in the 30s and 40s. Your cars only go a certain speed. Like I said, it is a little bit more linear. It's not really an open world, but if you're into the Mafia movies and such, if you love those, I think this one and 2 are really great to play. Because, it has the gameplay function. None of them are too aggravating, but it has a great story. So if you love the movies, really cool. And Mafia, once again, it's a $40 game. You can also get the whole series for $60. Now, granted, you might be able to get a lot of these just, cheaper, buying them used if you want to go that route. But there is a collection that's $60 that comes with, the redone Mafia 1, Mafia 2, which I think might have a little bit of graphical upgrades. I still have it on a couple of different systems. And I play that game every couple of years. That's how much I like that one. I'll go back and play it because it's like playing a movie to me. And you'll get 3, which just like I said, that one didn't do it for me. It just had too many little aggravating functions, like defend your turf. It was too repetitive. But I still wouldn't mind trying to play it. But I've really enjoyed it. Like I said, it's completely redone, and I was just really surprised to see them, take this older game and redo it. I didn't think the fanfare, would be there for them to do that. But maybe people wanted it. I hope people check it out if you liked Mafia 2. Like I said, like me, if you're a fan, I definitely recommend checking this out because I think it's definitely a better play than going back and doing the old one. I went through a couple missions, been having fun with it. But that's the main things I've been playing now. But like I said, I have really been enjoying the two games between Mafia and Battlegrounds. They've been really fun.
Yeah, you know what's funny is I did release a games I've been playing episode as we've been recording this. I had it scheduled, so it's already up. What I've been playing, but I've been playing more since I made that episode. Now, of course, in that episode that you guys can check out on YouTube.com/XanderScullion, I talk about, New Super Mario 3D All Stars. Been playing that, really enjoying that. But a game that I definitely want to talk about that I'm probably doing a review of that I think you might like, James, is the Friends of Ringo Ishikawa.
I have that.
I've been playing that, and that's a really good game. I mean, it's kind of a slow start. That's one of the things I will say. First starting out, it's a slow burn. But, it's got that River City Ransom action RPG kind of persona feel about, you're pretty much a, high school delinquent. This is your last year. You're going to graduate, but you're trying to decide if you're going to, straighten up and become a member of society or if you're going to be a Yakuza, pretty much. But it's been a lot of fun. I've been playing some of that. And also, I do want to mention again, because I mentioned in the video game I've been playing, Hot Shot Racing. And that's
when Heine did the music for it.
Yeah, Jason Heine did the music for it. And, Jason Heine's an awesome dude. We've had him on the show before. I'd love to have him on again. I know he's been really, really busy lately. So hopefully we can make that happen.
Yeah, but, definitely good guy. He's been going through some health things. Definitely check out his channel if you never have. He's a great, definitely one of my favorite YouTubers and just one of the most nicest, down-to-earth ones you can run into.
Yeah, I mean, he's very talented with his podcasting and audio engineering and musicianship and making content. He's really cool, and I wanted to support him. I saw that game, and it was like $20, and I'm like, I like arcade racers. I like the music. I'm going to go ahead and jump on it. So I went ahead and bought it, and I was having a lot of fun, man. It was like a mixture of virtual racing meets, Daytona USA. It's just the classic 90s era arcade racer, and it was so much fun. And I would say if you had that itch to go high speeds and go through some nostalgia, then Hot Shot Racing is definitely something to check out.
I've been meaning to get that one. That was when it came out. It's one I've been meaning to get. I would probably pick that one up after the show here because it's just looking forward to that. You can't beat a good fun racer like that.
Yeah,
it's going to have great music with him doing it. I know he was so excited, to have his music in a game like that. Been seeing him, post about that. So it's so cool to see that game, finally come out. So I will definitely be checking that one out.
Yeah, and one more game I want to mention is I bought Metal Gear Solid on GOG, Good Old Games, for PC. Konami had released a Metal Gear bundle. Well, not really bundle because all the games are $9.99 each, and it's like Metal Gear Solid, Metal Gear Solid 2, and I believe the original Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2. So I mean, it's $40 for all 4 games, but I went ahead and just got Metal Gear Solid because I really love that game, and it. Been playing it on PC. It looks fantastic because they upscaled all the graphics, the high res, 60 frames. It looks really, really good. I was playing that the other day, and it's got full controller support. I had it synced up to my PS4 controller, so hooked up to my 4K television. It felt like nostalgia and new shit at the same time.
and of course, now there's rumors. I don't know if it's official that they're actually remaking Metal Gear Solid now.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, that would be insane. The only thing I will say is if they remake Metal Gear Solid, they need to bring back David Hayter as Solid Snake. I love Kiefer Sutherland, but that's not Solid Snake.
Hopefully, and maybe one day I will play a Metal Gear Solid game. I've never actually played those.
I would say if you are to be like, all right, I want to play a Metal Gear Solid game, start with Metal Gear Solid. It's such a good game. I enjoy all the others to a certain degree, but nothing beats the original Metal Gear Solid. It's got that enough cinematic, it's got enough gameplay to it because as time progressed, the Metal Gear series became very cinematic, very movie like. And I feel like that was kind of lost in the later releases, where Metal Gear Solid's a straight up good game with really good cinematics and storytelling. It's a masterpiece.
I did want to bring up one final thing too, which I just realized maybe others had heard about, but there was another, the arcade 1-Up series that had been coming out, because I thought this one was really cool because it was a Sega one that's going to have Golden Axe, Golden Axe 2, The Revenge of Death Adder, Shinobi, Wrestle War, and Altered Beast, which it's really a big thing because, I mean, that Revenge of Death Adder is one of those games that really got lost. And I mean, you can play it through emulation, but I think it still has a lot of like graphical glitches.
Yeah.
No matter what you're doing. But this arcade 1-Up is going to have it. It's 4 players. So unfortunately, it's going to be one of those $400 arcade 1-Ups, which means, I and probably many of y'all will probably not be getting it. But along with that, there's also a Sega kind of little arcade. It's called the Sega something. I think.
The Astro.
Yes,
Astro series. Yeah.
Or Astro series, Astrocade, which is going to have about, I think, either 40 to 50 arcade games, which also will have Revenge of Death Adder. So I think it's really cool because, like, I remember this game at Putt Putt. It was on a big screen. It's one of those huge screens. It looked like the TVs we have now, pretty much. But like when you're little, that is just like gigantic 4 players, and it was such an awesome game. And that game really got lost in time. So it's just, I think it's really cool to see that, whether it's the arcade 1-Up or that Sega Astrocade. But it's like, you're a Golden Axe fan, you never played this, and like I said, maybe the emulation isn't quite cutting it for you. There are a couple ways, to play it coming out soon, which I think is really cool. I think the arcade 1-Up is awesome. And that's one, like, man, if it dropped in price like later, that's one like I would think about getting, because it's just a nice little just Sega, just Sega arcade system to have. Got to give a shout out to the arcade 1-Ups. I think they're all pretty cool. I don't own any, but I think they're all pretty awesome.
Yeah, I had the Street Fighter 2 one, and I meant that I don't play it as much as I should, but it is a nice thing to have in the living room. Like when people come over, they see the arcade there. It's funny because I got my my 410 bass cabinet that I use to play bass when I go on shows and stuff. But it's a pretty tall cabinet, and I had that, and I had the arcade on top of it. So now the arcade is actually a 6-foot tall cabinet. But it's funny because it looks like the 6-foot tall cabinet with these big speakers on the bottom. You're like, whoa, what is that? I'm like, the speakers don't work right now. But yeah, guys, I want to thank everyone for listening to another episode of XS Gaming Podcast. And again, if you enjoyed the show, be sure to rate and subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and leave us a review, because reviews really help the show. It helps the transparency. It helps folks find us as well, and helps the show grow. And if you want to join the community, be sure to join us at facebook.com/groups/XS Gaming Podcast. As always, guys, thanks for listening. And as always, happy gaming.
Have a pleasant evening, everybody.